Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Chat. I'm Sue Stewart along with Pat LaRose, and thank you to our amazing friends at Riverside Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Vincent Massey Drive. They are a business sort of as usual. You can certainly check them out on their Facebook page or their website as well. Find out how you can get yourself in a brand new car safely and especially just in time for summer. We were talking last week about the idea, Pat, of especially now another beautiful day. We're getting sunshine, warmer temps, nothing like a convertible just to feel like you're running away.
That's right. Yes, and there's still a lot happening. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and we want to just bring it back to some questions that we've been asked, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have been wondering about school. You know, our kids have been off school since mid-March, and a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen when they go back in September. So we're very happy that Dave McDonald, the trustee of the Upper Canada District School Board, has joined us to hopefully help answer some of those questions that we have and our listeners have. So thanks for joining us, David.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Hey, you've got so many people asking you questions, just like us. We've got our notes, we've got our own personal questions because we have kids in pre-K to university. And I know you might not be able to answer them all, but you can certainly help us a little bit by telling us what, your top three main questions that you are getting asked right now. And that would probably answer a lot of them.
Absolutely. So the biggest questions that we're getting is, when can I get into the school to get my children's belongings? We've had situations where people left before March break and thought they were going to be back in a week and have an opportunity to get shoes or clothes, whatever it might be in the locker or might be in their cubby. So that's a big one. Another one is, what is it going to look like in September? We've been on this virtual classroom ride right now for several weeks and months. What is it going to look like in September for their kids? And the other thing really is, if my child is getting bused to school, what does that look like? How is that going to be implemented? And to go back to the first question about when can I get my children's belongings, I can say that the Upper Canada Board and other boards in the area are starting to work with families to be able to plan that process. We had to coordinate with our local medical officer of health and determine the criteria and the plan of how we would approach that and how individuals would be allowed into the schools to be able to retrieve those belongings. But that'll be rolled out over the next couple of days and weeks to be able to allow parents to be able to go in and if it's a high school student, they can go in themselves, but to retrieve those items that are important to them that they may need moving forward for the summer, or if they've graduated, they want to make sure that they have those. So I would say that within the next week or two, that'll be communicated out, and we should have everything taken care of over the next couple of weeks to be able to allow that to take place.
I think that's going to be such an emotional time for so many of them, especially the ones that are graduating, moving on to college or university. That's the last time they're going to step in that school, and I almost want to tear up for them, just the idea of that locker that last time, hoping that there was no food left in there. First of all, I'm sure it's rotted over and doesn't smell anymore by this time. Enough time has gone by. But so we're expecting an email or something, right? Or we're not getting phone calls. We're not calling everybody.
Yeah, so it'll be primarily an email, but in some cases, I mean, if we don't have up-to-date information, we're going to make some phone calls. It's going to be very similar to the way that we handled the technology rollout across the boards. And most of the boards in the area, and I don't want to speak for them, but I do say, we're in this together. And regardless of what school your children go to, we all have the same stake in the ground that we want to do the best for kids, and we want to make sure that the transition from what happened in March to the end of the school year is the best for kids. And we rolled out an opportunity for individuals that needed technology to be able to get computers or devices that they would need fairly quickly through email. In some cases, it had to be by phone. Same process will happen, or similar process will happen with retrieving your belongings. To your point about those kids that are graduating, it's an emotional roller coaster for them, because when they left at March break, they thought they were going to go and have a week away and come back and see their friends. And I know for me, it's been a long time since I've been in high school, but when you're graduating and you're moving on, you've got that yearbook, you've got an opportunity to have your friends sign things. There's lots of different things that are missed this year. Graduation ceremony, prom, lots of different things that have kind of been changed and pivoted for those kids. So, my heart does go out to those kids. It's a hard process for them to grapple with. And, I will say that children and youth in general are resilient, but we still have to support them. And so we need to make sure that we're having those conversations, making sure they're okay.
I have enjoyed watching through social media, although it's been sort of bittersweet, how creative they've been on what they're going to be doing and how they're going through it, still dressing up, putting on the dress or the tux, or getting together sort of at distance. So good for them that they're not, I'm sure some of them still are having a difficult time with it, but for the rest being creative, good on them that you can get through this. And, when this is all over, which it will someday end, we can throw them one hell of a party.
Absolutely. And I think, they deserve it. We all deserve it, right? We all deserve an opportunity to be able to gather again. We are creatures that like to be together. And as much as we like some alone time, we certainly do value the opportunity to be together. And I think, our youth are no different than that. They, really see an opportunity that's kind of been removed for them to be able to share. They have social media, but being in school or wherever it might be that they would gather over those courses of the last few months, they've missed out on that opportunity. So, they're having a hard time, and I think our staff across all boards and our families are really trying to do the best we can to support kids. And I see great stories about sharing photos, sharing things that the kids are doing. I see some of our rural schools with photos of kids that are how are they keeping active, whether it's working on the farm or doing those types of things to keep active. And some of our more urban schools within the city of Cornwall and taking those photos of kids that, we went out and we bought this prom dress and I want to be able to show it off and make sure that, I have some pride in having that picture and letting others see the work that we did to be able to accomplish to buy the prom dress. That we were going to have a great celebration, and this is what I was going to be looking like for that celebration. So,
getting back to what you just said about the different pictures you're seeing from them at home, there's been a lot of difficult moments, I'm sure, for parents, teachers, any educator, and anyone with children trying to get through this, trying to make sure the child is learning. But there are so many things that they may not have been learning at this time. Gardening, cooking, we're seeing that all the time. Like kids are actually learning the old school skills again that, they can get a job at Upper Canada Village tomorrow if it opens up.
Absolutely. And I think that really speaks to, some of the things that we do on a regular basis as parents in our communities that we just haven't really touched upon it as being educational, right? There's things that we do to engage our children on a regular basis, but it is part of an educational journey, and that experiential learning of actually, hands-on doing things with mom, with dad, with family. That's tremendous. I mean, you're making connections, but you're also learning new techniques and new values to be able to move that in. And the hard thing sometimes is to make the connection as to what you've learned at home. If you're doing cooking, there's a tremendous amount of math skills involved in cooking from a measuring standpoint, right? There's lots of, it could be a chemistry, it could be a science experiment in that sense. So, we don't make the connection oftentimes, but it is there. And I think that's an important piece. And I think our staff across all boards have done a remarkable job to make sure that, while you're at home, here are little things that you can do that it's very easy. You don't need to worry about having most of these things supplied by the school because they're going to be in the house. But these are little experiments, little things that you can do that will certainly make the connection and help with the journey that we're trying to finish off for them.
So talking about like the learning phase right now, so overall it would be about 3.5 months that they would have missed from school. Has there been discussion of, what they may have missed and how that might change come September? Will there be changes to the curriculum? Will there be a refresher period? Have you guys just talked about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it at a very, philosophical level as to what it's going to look like. But you're absolutely right, Pat. I mean, that's an important piece. we have experienced some opportunities for kids to have that experiential learning at home and have those moments. But there are a number of things that are going to be missed. I mean, I know that there are great examples of things happening with students and teachers, but there are some individuals that have had some support that they require not being able to be there, right? So not everyone is really good at learning math from a distance. So we need to be able to step back, and these are the conversations that we're having with the ministry on a regular basis, and these roundtables are going to be. I think we need to be cognizant of that as September approaches. Our September normal process is we kind of do a little bit of a refresher from the past year, and I think that refresher needs to be a little bit more extended. And we'll see what that looks like, but I think we need to make sure that children are comfortable and are able to move forward to the next phase. The last thing we want to do is have kids go through this last 3.5 months and forget about it, and then try to pick up as if it was business as usual or school as usual coming through. So we need to be very aware of that coming into September, and spend the time that we need to make sure that kids are right on the right path from their learning journey, and they're going to be successful. We just can't flick the switch and pretend it never happened.
Right.
So we're talking about going into September, but what about the summer months? Like, we're in them right now. Technically, they'd be at a school, in a couple of weeks? June 20th?
Yeah, it'd be, towards the end of June, around the 20, I can't recall the date, but actually they all...
Important. Yeah. Nobody needs to market on calendar right now. But what about going into the summer months? Have your educators, have you guys talked about anything that we should be doing as parents to keep the ball rolling? Will there be classes, or are we just going to shut down like it would be? And I don't mean shut down, but school year is over, have your summer months. What's our advice there?
So it is that to some degree. I mean, for some students, you can certainly shut down and have the summer, but we do have an enhanced summer program that's going to be introduced. So we typically would have summer school, and it's not your traditional show up at a building and go in and have a class. It will be a virtual summer school, and there's opportunities for kids to be able to reach ahead as well. So if you've had some courses that you may be in transitioning into high school, you could reach ahead and take a high school class if you're coming out of grade 8. But there will be that enhanced opportunity to continue on with some of those courses that you may have taken and need to brush up on, or some of the other courses that you might want to try out and have an opportunity to take them over the summer months. So that is something that's being rolled out, and something that's been encouraged by the ministry as well, to make sure that we have a summer learning opportunity. Again, it's voluntary though. For individuals that are looking for that, they can certainly use that process to help them through the summer. But just like it is with the last 3.5 months, some are more engaged in the virtual learning than others, and I think it's that measure of how much time do I have as a parent to support my child while I'm at home working, and I've got 3 kids that are trying to learn. So the measured approach has been that we have some engagement at certain parts of the day, and then other families will do it all throughout the entire day. So it is really an attempt by the ministry to get to a synchronous learning, so that we, just as we're doing right now, we would log in a format like Zoom and have all of our kids in the platform, and our teacher there as well. That's the intention. That's the work that we're trying to get towards, and it works in some, but it's not working for everyone right now.
Time management is obviously going to be one of those major roles played in all of this, as you said, with parents trying to work from home with however many kids that they may be trying to homeschool. I have to give kudos to my daughter's school. She goes to l'Héritage, and I haven't been really all that involved because first it's full French, and I struggle with that to begin with, but she is in contact with her teachers whenever she wants. The age that she's at, she's about to be 13, so the kids are helping each other through it. So it's really absolutely amazing. Elementary to high school, it's obviously got to be a bigger, I don't want to say burden, but for the most part, the elementary school teachers, they've got to deal with the kids and the parents on top of that. I can only imagine the struggle that they have putting these lessons together, first of all, hoping that the kids are listening and watching, and secondly, having to get through and touch touch base with all of the parents to keep them in the loop of what's going on. But can you imagine this generation is going to be so far advanced from what we are now trying to figure out how to work from home? They're doing it now. They're getting all the coping skills that we didn't have. They're going to be ready for this no matter what path they take, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think we look at this as a lost opportunity in some ways, but if we look at it with an open growth mindset, it really is an opportunity for kids to and individuals like us to learn new skills, new challenges, and come out of this a more improved individual. And I think for our kids, and I said it earlier, kids are resilient. We see it all the time, right? We just need to make sure that we support them. And sometimes they'll amaze us at the way they handle things and the way they find a way to move forward. And I'm at that point where we can talk about the old VCRs and the clocks still at 12 o'clock. We don't have the VCR anymore, but there's other things, right? There's other pieces, and I think our kids are able to pick up devices and look at things and figure it out so much quicker than we ever would have been able to do. And I think for us, we need to make sure that they're finding those connections between what they pick up outside of a school and how they can use that within their regular structured learning environment.
So going back to school in September, I read an article last night. I just wanted to touch on this. And I think it was the ministry was asking for input, but they were talking about the possibility of smaller classes, fewer students on buses, kids kept apart at recess, and the potential of having to wear masks or disinfecting stations. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, that's where the ministry is looking at the input and to be able to gather that and help implement what it's going to look like. And the ministry is committed to having that plan in place by the end of the school year. But we've done some simulations in Upper Canada, and our simulations really look at if we were to do things based on the current guidelines and what we would have, we'd have about a 40% utilization of the classroom. So it's only 40% of the kids would be in the class to be able to ensure that we have that physical distancing that's required and that type of thing. So that's a big impact on how we would manage that. What is it going to look like? If we're only going to have 40%, does that mean alternate days? So those are the logistics that we're running through right now to be able to help with that process to make sure that staff are feeling safe and that parents are feeling safe if they're sending young children to school. But more importantly, even from a high school standpoint, that our high school students are feeling safe. So, I think masks are not off the table; they're on the table. That may be a requirement that we would have to have if we introduce school in September, and that's what it's going to require us to do, is to have masks and some physical barriers in different places. So, in order to get to that point, there are a lot of other little moving pieces, and the next moving piece would be, we have a number of kids in the Upper Canada region, but in Eastern Ontario in general, that are bused to school on a regular basis. And, we've got primary kids, in the early grades, kindergarten to grade 2, grade 3, they're sitting 3 per seat. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. You can't do that moving forward, right? So, what are we going to be looking for? And the other struggle is, we're all parents, and I recall when my kids were young, I couldn't keep a 2 mitts on them at a young age. So how do we ensure the young children are able to have masks on if they're going to be going to school? So, from a busing standpoint, it's really gonna challenge us to the point where, how do we ensure that there's physical distancing, and how do we ensure that students are being picked up that are required to be in the school that particular day, if we're looking at alternate day arrangements. So a lot of logistics around that to really figure out, and that's why we're really pushing the ministry to give us some guidelines of what they're thinking, so that now we can get our work together on how that's going to be implemented at a local level. The ministry guidelines are one thing, but the work really goes into rolling it out at the local level, and we'll see from all of our school boards. It'll be a challenge to try and get that done in a short period of time to get ready for September.
Again, we're talking with Dave McDonald, trustee with the Upper Canada District School Board, and even going out to, I know even with grown-ups right now, physical abilities when it comes to asthmatics and that sort of thing, putting on a mask, little kids, it's going to be absolutely horrendous, I'm sure, for you guys to try and figure all of this out. We wish you luck with it, because boy, I don't envy your jobs whatsoever, but you're looking out for the better of our kids and our community as a whole. And what you said earlier is I'm so happy to hear that between Upper Canada District School Board, the French School Board, the Catholic School Board, you guys are all having to come together and do it, because let's face it, the neighbors on my block might be with your schooling. We're all in this together, and we got to figure it out together. Nobody should be doing it different than the next, so the kids can still feel like they're somewhat normal with everybody else.
Absolutely, and I think we talk at a administrative level on a regular basis. Our directors of education are connected on a constant basis, and I have relationships with most of the trustees in the area as well, so that when we do have issues that are affecting boards, then certainly pick up the phone. And one of the relationships that I've had in the past was working well with Todd Lalonde, the chair and local trustee for the Catholic District School Board, and not afraid to pick up the phone and have conversations and sort things out for kids, because we represent different boards, but our goal is the same, and our community is the same. And we need to make sure that we do band together, regardless of the board and regardless of what area we represent, to make sure it's in the best interest of our kids, for our community.
Pat, did you have any other questions? I absolutely love the way this conversation has gone, and it's helped me anyway as a parent to feel like I'm somewhat in the loop, because you hear so many different things from different newscasts. So Dave, it's been great getting these answers from you right now. I
appreciate the opportunity. And sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Sorry, I think you pretty much answered all the questions we had. The one thing I just want to, for our listeners, I know I'm getting the communication for my kids' school. If people aren't, for whatever reason, aren't getting the communication, they can go to the school board website. Are there any other resources that they can connect to, or people that they can reach out to if they want more information, or if they're not getting the communication that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So, from the Upper Canada District School Board standpoint, we have a couple of different areas. We have emails that are sent out. We also have a portal that is called My Family Room. And so if you have that app and you have that portal, you can certainly send a message through to your individual teacher or to your individual principal. Our email system is fairly simple. It's the first name dot last name at ucdsb.on.ca. So as long as you know the name of the principal, the teacher, myself, you can send an email through to us. The 1-800 number or the school number is certainly available for you to call into, and we are checking those as well regularly. So there's lots of different opportunities. If you're feeling disconnected and you haven't been reached, certainly connect. I will say this though, I know that our staff, and I'm sure all staff across all boards, teachers and principals, their days have just expanded, because we are making connections with parents whenever they're available. So I know principals are having conversations at 9:30 at night just to make sure that we're having those connections with parents. So a remarkable task for our staff across all boards to make sure that we do make connections with parents. And in some cases, parents have said, you know what, my child's good, everything's fine, no need to reach out. But for the most part, a majority, they appreciate the conversations, and they appreciate the connection that's being made.
And we appreciate it very much. Again, we talk about the doctors and nurses and frontline workers. You guys have really stepped up your game, because I just can't even imagine. Again, I had heard recently, it was I think it was on CTV News, where the one teacher had put so much effort, 6 or 7 hours into all these different classes, and he wasn't sure who was going to show up that day. So no matter what, you're not walking into a classroom, seeing everybody there. You're sitting behind your computer going, please come, please learn with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those kids that we haven't been able to engage with, that's where the phone calls are being made. So, we're making sure that we have the connections where possible. And really, there are some remarkable stories out there with what teachers are doing. And, we hear on a regular basis what they do in their classrooms and the efforts they go through on a normal situation to make sure that the classroom environment is right for the kids. they've stepped it up quite a bit to be able to pivot and create an environment for kids that is more virtual, but still engaging them. So, we have people that are in teaching profession that are in it and are making a difference for kids. And, they've done a tremendous job to help us get to the point we're at right now.
Well, we're all learning as we go. This is new. This
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
Looking forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. Again, we really appreciate your time because I'm sure you're a busy guy and I'm sure you've got 19,000 emails in this time that we've been chatting, but we appreciate just trying to get us up to speed and maybe touch base again at some point as we get closer to the school year.
Yes.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And, certainly anytime, happy to answer questions and respond to anybody that may have some concerns. So I just appreciate the opportunity for you to make these connections with people in our community and enjoy the work that you've been doing so far with the new chat.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dave. Pat, you want to say our final little spiel? Because again, I'm almost wanting to go take a test drive today. Beautiful out.
Yes, thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsor, Riverside Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Again, like Sue said, it's beautiful weather out there, so if you're looking for a new vehicle, make sure to check them out at 2205 Vincent Massey Drive. You can also browse their inventory at riversidechrysler.ca.
Thanks again, Dave, and until next time, this is this week's edition of The Chat. I'm Sue Stewart along with Pat LaRose. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.